What is going on, YouTube people? Today, we come together to celebrate the life of a hobby friend, someone that has been with us for decades. Some of us grew up with this individual, spent many an hours on a bathroom toilet flipping through the pages of Beckett magazine. Then they began grading cards, and things were good. The pandemic came. They fell a little ill. They just couldn't bounce back. They weren't the same. They just didn't have the spring in their step anymore. Now, I think it's time that we've had that talk. It might be time to send them off to the nursing home. They're just not getting around like they used to anymore. They probably shouldn't be driving. It's a tough conversation, but I think it's time that we've had it. Jokes aside, that's the most apt comparison I could kind of think of for Beckett at the moment. They are like your aging grandparent or parent, that it is time to have a discussion maybe about a little assisted living, or maybe need a little extra help around the house. Maybe we could get a move-in nurse or something. Monthly gem rate data is out. We'll kind of just quickly go through the macro numbers here and look at tag and arena clubs. But obviously, the thing that is getting all the buzz, the lightning rod number here, is the Beckett number down there at the bottom. Just to run through these quickly, PSA 1.26 million. CGC in second at 218K. SGC at 129,000. And Beckett, once again, the one getting all the eyeballs and all the talk on social the last couple of days, 34,000. Numbers are down slightly other than CGC. Some of that's to be attributed to less business days in the month, plus a holiday. So you're going to get a little bit of downward pressure on the numbers. That's kind of expected. Once again, CGC's actually bounced up a little bit. So that 13% for PSA, the 22% for SGC. I'm guessing in a normal month, PSA would probably be pretty dead on. SGC might be down slightly. I guess CGC would be up even more. And maybe Beckett could crack 35K. The 35K number, I believe, might be their lowest ever since gem rate has been tracking it. I don't know that 100% for sure. We could look through real quick. At least year to date, I am pretty sure it is their lowest month ever. It is a 32% drop month over month and 43% year over year. Now, though, jokes aside, like we've been a little rough on Beckett throughout most of the year, justifiably so. They've literally done nothing. Maybe they just really like Thanksgiving and their employees use a lot of PTO this time of year. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what next month's numbers look like for them, if they drastically increase or stay about the same. Let's go to the individual categories real quick, and then we'll kind of have a little bit of a deeper conversation here. Sports, PSA did just under 700K. SGC did 121K. CGC did more sports cards than Beckett did. 33,000 compared to 21,000. It's a 7% increase for them, a 20% decrease for Beckett. On the TCG side of things, PSA had a pretty strong month, 575,000. CGC in second place, like they normally do, 185,000. Beckett 13K and SGC 8,000. They've been getting a little better in the TCG space, but they just can't seem to really grab that market share. I think really what that one comes down to is I don't know that TCG stuff looks good in their slabs, quite honestly. I think it is as simple as that. We've deep dove Beckett's TCG numbers in the past and their sports numbers, to be quite honest. I did that about a week or probably like a month or so ago, looking at the chase for the black labels and how that is generating a lot of their business, the Tops Now stuff, One Piece, Dragon Ball, etc. And that is a dangerous game to be playing in when your whole world revolves around getting black labels. That's awful tricky. That is not good. Let's look at the small fries for a minute. Tag and Arena Club. Rest in peace, HGA. Arena Club came in with their normal 11,000-ish, 12,000-ish, which is basically just all stuff for the repack product. I never see Arena Club slabs in the wild. Tag came in at 13,000, a very big drop off for them. This is their lowest month since I think March of 2024. And shocking, you're going to be shocked by this. The loss was basically all Pokemon. Last month they did 31,000 Pokemon. This month they only did 9,000 Pokemon. Once again, the trend continues. They basically, whatever their numbers are, they do about 3,000 to 4,000 in non-Pokemon, and then a bulk of their business is Pokemon, which is going towards repacks for, I think, multiple different companies at this point. I don't know if that business is drying up, if it was just a down month, what the deal was, but their numbers fell way off this month, and it was all driven by the Pikachus. So we'll see how that rebounds in the future as well. If this is just a one-off, they have had these little one-offs before where it drops kind of down. It has been a while, though. You got to go all the way back to March since they were this low in Pokemon. They did 9,000 that month, and they did not that much in the old Poke World. And then you can see going from there forward, they were doing 10 to 20,000 in Pokemon a month up until September was a low month, and this month was a low month. So we'll see how they rebound on that one. And HGA continues to be dead. I probably could delete them. I enjoy the little RIPs here on the screen. Let's talk about Beckett. So I thought this comment, which was posted today, I'm recording this on December 2nd in the afternoon. This was posted today on the Blowout forums in the grading posts. I'm not going to sit here and read it. You can take a look at it or pause or whatever you want to do. It's nothing crazy. It's just a customer service story. But I think this really sums up kind of what's been going on over there. We've kind of talked this to death, so I don't want to beat the dead horse too much here. Yes, Beckett was once a hobby powerhouse. At the beginning of the pandemic, PSA 10 still outsold BGS 9.5s, but the gap was much, much closer depending on the subgrades. The pandemic hit, and really it's a tale of two stories from there. PSA, their group sold to Nat Turner, and they spent a bunch of money in innovation and added a bunch of stuff on over the last few years. Just in this year alone, they have added a ton of stuff on. They cleared out their backlog. They got things moving in the correct direction. Don't get me wrong, PSA is not perfect. There is a lot of nonsense and shenanigans that goes on over there. A lot of people still do not like them, but you cannot deny they have spent a boatload of money improving the PSA offerings. Meanwhile, the flip side of the coin, Beckett did basically nothing. Like, nothing. I remember when the pandemic first started, I actually submitted cards to Beckett. I got them back in a pretty decent amount of time, had a pretty okay experience with them, no problems whatsoever. This was very early on in the pandemic. Things started to go sideways. I heard way more reports of basically what's on the screen here, just general customer service issues, long turnaround times. It took them, say what you will, PSA had a massive backlog. All the grading companies did. Beckett's took way longer to clear than everybody else's, which was crazy because they weren't getting anywhere near the same amount of cards. It took them forever to clear the backlog. Customer service never got any better. And they just basically spun their wheels. And then when they did spend money, they spent it in weird places that didn't necessarily make sense, like vaults. They spent a ton of money. They spent millions of dollars acquiring a vault. The last thing that they needed. That was millions of dollars that could have been spent on the customer service team, a website upgrade, a submission process upgrade. They did none of it. None of it. And then when they tried to do stuff, because they got new management in there, They had some people that genuinely wanted to make the company better and take things in a different direction. They were stonewalled. They were absolutely stonewalled. There was people in there that wanted to do things differently and try to shake things up a little bit, but Beckett was too old school and too stuck in their ways to make the necessary changes that needed to happen. Or they would try to make the change, they would get instant feedback from the old school Beckett loyalists, and they would switch back, like the subgrade changes when all that business went down. When they were potentially looking to change the subgrades around and the grading scale and all that, that was an absolute debacle. They knew what they needed to do. They half-assed it because they didn't want to take it all the way. They pissed everybody off, both sides, the old school Beckett people that were concerned about stuff, and then the new school people that were concerned about stuff. They basically made both sides mad. And then they said, we're going to look at this. And they did. I know that they did, because I was part of focus groups that had discussions with them on it. I can't talk about what went on there because I signed an NDA, but I think it's okay for me to say that I was part of discussion groups about the grading scale changes multiple times, and nothing ever happened. They told the community, we're looking at this, we're going to update you. Months went by and they never said a word. And in the meantime, people were like, well, why would I send cards in when I don't know what it's going to grade? When they announced that grading scale change, and they didn't even really look at their own numbers internally. When I remember when I reached out to GemRate to have him run me the numbers on how many cards were going to be affected by, no longer being basically a gem mint grade. I forget what the specifics of what they were doing, but basically every min gem card was going to get essentially downgraded, for lack of a better term. It was going to be, I forget what it was going to be called, but it was going to be downgraded. It was not going to sound as nice as a gem mint card, which is what a BGS 9.5 is. But they were trapped by the subgrades. And they didn't want to make the necessary changes to go to a 10-point scale like everybody else. That, the non-10-point scale, the 9.5 being the primary grade, along with the lack of innovation and change around submission process, website, and customer service, those were the things I think that sunk them. They are the most expensive to grade with out of the big companies. They are the most nebulous when you send your cards off in regards to where they're at in the stages of getting things done. And meanwhile, SGC in the same time period, Peter down there in Florida with a small team, but they had him as a figurehead, as a face of the company, preaching amazing customer service, even though they don't have all the innovation, they don't have all the tech. They have a generic looking slab, a generic looking label, but they have Peter and they have a reputation for great customer service. They ran with that, and they built a successful enough company that Collectors Universe wanted to come along and buy them. PSA just keeps rolling out new stuff every other day. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. So Beckett has basically done nothing since pre-pandemic. They have a slab that has major counterfeiting issues, with a metal label that falls off half the time and slides down, and they've never done anything with it. People say they like Beckett slabs the best. I just can't wrap my mind around that. The metal tag falls down, and they have obvious security flaws that they've never touched. They've never done a single thing with it to make it more secure. They've done nothing. SGC, they didn't do anything like on the tech side of things or adding new things. We're still waiting on a set registry, Peter. They didn't do anything with that, but they did expand capacity and got that system humming along. So you could visually see the improvements. They're grading more cards, they're grading them faster, they're getting them back to you. They have exceptional customer service. PSA has legit rolled out a ton of new things just this year. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. They acquired SGC, which we really don't know what's going to go on with that yet. They rolled out Graders Notes. They traded Golden for the eBay Vault, and the eBay Vault, or now the PSA Vault, looks like it's going to head in 100 different directions. They partnered with Fanatics. They have multiple partnerships with GameStop. They're getting into comic books. I mean, there's the whole PSA offers thing that kind of plays into the vault. That was all just in 2024. And meanwhile, Beckett has done nothing. So this really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody why this number looks as bad as it does. It really shouldn't. Now, it could be no fault to the employees at Beckett. There is obviously tons of drama behind the scenes with them. The owner owes $2 billion in fraud. Earlier when I mentioned about Beckett buying all these companies that they probably shouldn't have in most cases, most of those companies that they purchased, they broke the contract with them and stopped paying the people that they bought them off of. At least, I did the CBCS update on Sunday's video. There's now 5 cases against Beckett from different individuals and entities that they owe money to of these ancillary companies that they purchased, because probably the guy running everything was stealing the money, most likely, or something clearly was going on. So the people behind the scenes, like I said, I know of at least some people that wanted to do things that probably, and a lot of people probably felt like this, wanted to legitimately make the company better, but were probably handcuffed from upper management, or even upper management, like the ownership group. Essentially saying, basically Beckett was a cash cow that they were going to milk without actually putting any money into it. It was, cool, you're profitable, we don't have to do anything with you, you just keep doing exactly what you're doing, we're not going to spend any more money on you, we'll keep cashing the checks on the back end, you do your thing, eventually you'll run into the ground and we'll just ditch you, we've made our money off you tenfold over the last 4 or 5 years, cool, we're done, bye. That is probably where this whole thing ends up going. Between all the legal drama and the fact that there is no legitimate reason to use that company right now. There really isn't. I guess thick cards, if you want to make that argument, and the chase for black labels. If that's your audience, I don't think that's enough cards coming through the door every month to keep the lights on. I don't know what their books look like. Maybe they could do it just fine. Maybe they don't have a huge grading team and that's why it takes so long to get cards back. Who knows? But it's absolutely crazy. And I just don't know how they get it turned around. Like, it's easy to sit here on the keyboard and be like, oh, so-and-so should buy them. Fanatics should buy them. Collectors should buy them. Hobbyists should get together and buy them. Off-centered should buy them. Whatever. The amount of work that it would probably take to rebuild them would cost a small fortune. And the problem is it worth it? You got to spend money to buy them. Then you got to spend a ton of money to fix them. For what? You're going up against an absolute monster in Collector's Universe, aka PSA/SGC. They absolutely own the market share. I mean, quite frankly, it's mostly just PSA, but they also have SGC in there that you're competing with on low pricing. So even if you're like, oh, we'll lower pricing and get more cards in the door, now you're competing against the value brand of PSA, basically, in SGC. And then on the flip side, you have CGC kind of like battling it out. Just, you know, they've got their niche in TCG. They're starting to gain a little bit of traction, maybe in sports cards. I think out of the big 4 companies, CGC has the best slab by a mile. It is not even close. It is not even close. PSA's new slabs are fine, but the CGC slab, in my opinion, at least looks and feels, crushes it. That plastic is crystal clear. Cards look great in their slabs. And I do think a lot of people use them for PC stuff and for lower end grading. Like, they just want the card slab. They know it's like an 8.5 or a 9. Maybe it's a condition sensitive card, whatever the case might be. They don't care. They just want it slabbed up. A lot of people just send it to CGC. I know I do that with a lot of stuff, with non-sports cards. I just don't know I don't know how Beckett survives on black labels and thick cards. And even at this point, I don't know that I would want to send them that stuff. Unless you're just truly chasing black labels. And at some point in time, that's going to lose its luster. When Tops Now, everything's a black, well, not everything, like 10% or whatever it is, whatever the numbers are, is a black label. At some point in time, people are gonna figure that out, that black labels really aren't that rare, aren't that special in Tops Now. And if that dries up, now what do they got? I just don't know how this turns around for them. And even if someone came in and bought them. Now, you could argue maybe someone could come in and buy them, and maybe they say, we never even want to attempt to make a run at PSA. We just want to be, hell, them making a run at SGC would be a monumental task at this point in time. Let's be honest here. That's a huge gap just between SGC and Beckett. Even if you take away the lower number at like 50K, let's put them back at around 50K. That's still a third of what SGC is doing in a normal month. If this was last month, Tag almost graded more cards than Beckett did with their Pokemon repack product. God forbid Tag ever grades more cards than Beckett. The Tag bots will be out in full force in the streets. It'll be like the flashback scene in Terminator, where it's just skulls on the ground and people fighting off robots left and right with dogs barking. If Tag grades more cards than Beckett in a month, can you imagine how many posts are going to be in Reddit, on the Sports Card Nonsense Facebook group, on Twitter? The Tag bots will be 100% activated. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know what happens from here. I just don't see a use case for them right now. I truly don't. I truly do not. Outside of, you are just the absolute biggest Beckett homer ever. And I don't know what you do with cards already in their slabs. That's a whole other different conversation. That's probably a whole separate video. So that's all I got. That's all I got. I don't want to jinx anything. Have a big interview coming up. It's grading related. Big interview coming up. Hopefully, by the time you are all watching this, it's in the process of being recorded. Recording Tuesday night is the plan. If that happens, it'll be up possibly as soon as Wednesday. But the goal is to have that up sometime this week. Usually those videos don't take a ton of editing. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx myself. But that could be a fun one. I have no idea how it's going to go yet. It has not been recorded yet. We'll see. But I am excited about this one. So we'll see what happens there. That's all I got. Curious for your comments and thoughts down below. As always, catch you on the next one. Peace.